Is he here? Nostradamus's chilling warning about the end times leader. A silent storm brews beneath the surface of our world. For centuries, one name has haunted the pages of prophecy: Nostradamus. His cryptic quatrains, veiled in riddles and ancient symbols, have echoed across time, warning of a figure whose rise would mark the unraveling of an age. Today, on the journey of wisdom, we ask a chilling question. Is he already here? Could the very signs Nostradamus once whispered through time now be unfolding in real time? Within political upheavals, global unrest, and the quiet rise of a leader cloaked in charisma and control, this is no longer just a prophecy lost in the past. This is a message for our time. Before we begin our deep dive into this profound mystery, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who's ready to see beyond the surface, and subscribe to the Journey of Wisdom. Your support helps us keep bringing timeless truths and powerful stories into the light. Now, open your mind and prepare yourself. What you're about to discover may forever shift the way you understand prophecy, power, and the path ahead. Number 1. Who was Nostradamus? Nostradamus, whose real name was Michel de Nostradam, stands as one of history's most intriguing and controversial figures. Born in 1503 in France, he lived during a time of great uncertainty, marked by plagues, political upheaval, and religious conflict. What made Nostradamus so captivating, then and now, was his unusual blend of science, astrology, and mysticism. Trained as a physician, he cared for plague victims and understood human suffering deeply. But it was his fascination with celestial movements and spiritual insight that led him to write his most famous work, Les Prophecies. This book, composed of hundreds of cryptic four-line poems called quatrains, has sparked centuries of debate. To some, these verses are vague riddles open to interpretation. To others, they seem to hold chillingly accurate glimpses into the future, foreshadowing events like the Great Fire of London, the French Revolution, the rise of Hitler, and even 9/11. His writings have never stopped stirring curiosity, and whether you view him as a visionary or a clever poet, Nostradamus continues to resonate with people today, especially in times of global tension and uncertainty. In the modern world, where news travels fast and anxiety often spreads faster, the timeless question arises: are we witnessing events that Nostradamus saw centuries ago? The search for meaning in chaotic times can lead many to the comfort or fear of prophecy. Yet, whether or not one believes his predictions are real, the deeper lesson might be about human nature itself, our desire to find patterns, to prepare for what's coming, and to make sense of the unknown. Number 2. The end times leader, the third Antichrist. Let me take you on a journey through one of the most unsettling yet fascinating prophecies ever shared. The tale of the third and final Antichrist, as foretold by Nostradamus. This isn't just a figure out of myth or a name in a dusty old book. According to those who have studied his cryptic quatrains, this leader is not only real, but possibly already among us, moving silently through the halls of power, shaping our collective future. You might be wondering, who is this person? And why has Nostradamus's vision of him stirred both fear and fascination for centuries? Nostradamus spoke of 3 great antichrists, and while many believe the first 2 were Napoleon Bonaparte and Adolf Hitler, men who brought upheaval, war, and vast suffering. The third remains a shadow. He is unnamed, veiled in mystery, yet described as even more dangerous, with a reach and influence that could steer the course of humanity itself. Unlike the others, this final figure is not just a warlord or tyrant, but potentially a master manipulator who operates within a deeply interconnected and modern world, using technology, ideology, and fear to reshape societies from within. The chilling thought is this: if Napoleon and Hitler were the early storms, then this third figure is the final tempest. Some interpreters claim that his rise will be subtle at first, hidden beneath promises of unity, peace, or progress, before his true intentions unfold. Others say the signs are already here, if only we look closely enough. Global instability, increasing division, the rapid spread of misinformation, and the growing worship of false idols. And so we ask ourselves, not out of panic, but from a place of awareness, how do we recognize such a person before it's too late? Could we be living in the very time that Nostradamus envisioned, watching history repeat itself under new disguises? These questions aren't meant to create fear, but to spark deeper reflection. More importantly, what role do we play in all this? If prophecy warns us of great darkness, perhaps it's not just about the leader it describes, but about the awakening it calls for in all of us. Rather than waiting in dread, we can choose to cultivate clarity, compassion, and collective strength. Because history has shown us that even the darkest leaders can only rise when good people turn away, lose hope, or allow fear to guide their actions. So, as we explore these ancient predictions, let's also look inward. What kind of world are we shaping each day with our thoughts, words, and actions? The lesson here is powerful. Stay aware, but don't be afraid. Use these warnings not to fall into despair, but to awaken to your own responsibility and power. We may not be able to change the course of fate written centuries ago, but we can always change how we meet it, together with open eyes and a steady heart. What are you doing today to be part of the transformation rather than the destruction? Number 3. Decoding the prophecies. Let's take a closer look at the mysterious and often unsettling prophecies of Nostradamus. Words that, centuries after they were written, still stir curiosity and concern in our modern world. One particular verse that continues to draw intense debate reads, "In the year of the great seventh number completed, appearing at the time of the games of slaughter, not far from the age of the great millennium, when the dead rise from their graves." This cryptic language, while open to wide interpretation, is seen by many as a reference to our current era, an age marked by the rapid evolution of technology, moral ambiguity, and global unrest. The games of slaughter could easily be linked to modern warfare, violent entertainment, or even the political spectacles that dominate global headlines. And when we consider the line about the dead rising, it's hard not to think of breakthroughs in artificial intelligence, digital resurrection of voices from the past, or even the way history continues to repeat itself in hauntingly similar patterns. Some scholars suggest this quatrain warns us of a leader emerging during this very time, a figure who thrives in chaos and whose presence signals the climax of a much older cycle of power and conflict. Another prophecy adds more layers to this unsettling vision. "The great empire shall fall by a man of iron. He shall be born of the east, but take the crown of the west. His words shall be as honey, his actions as fire, and the people shall call him Savior." This verse paints the image of a charismatic figure, perhaps not yet fully revealed, who seduces the world with eloquent promises, but brings destruction in his wake. In today's context, it's not hard to imagine such a person existing within the spheres of global politics, big tech, or media empires. With the East rising in influence and the West navigating internal division, this prophecy resonates deeply. It's a reminder that influence today doesn't always wear a crown. It can come cloaked in popularity, innovation, or financial power. The man of iron could just as well be a symbol of rigid control, surveillance, or ideologies that seem strong on the surface, but burn with a hidden cost. For those of us living through this complex time, the value of these ancient warnings isn't necessarily in predicting a name or date. It's in awakening our awareness. These prophecies prompt us to reflect on the nature of power, truth, and how easily society can be led astray by appearances. In a world overflowing with information but lacking discernment, it becomes crucial to cultivate wisdom, compassion, and critical thinking. Whether or not such a leader truly rises as foretold, the deeper message is clear. Stay awake, stay grounded, and remember that real change begins within. If each of us chooses to lead with integrity, question what we consume, and act with mindfulness, then no prophecy, no matter how chilling, can dictate our destiny. Do you ever feel like we're repeating the past in new and more subtle forms? If you've watched this far, you're already deep into uncovering the truth behind Nostradamus's chilling warning. Comment below with End Times Insight to show you're ready to explore the mysteries that others are too afraid to face. Don't click away. There's still more to uncover about the leader who could shape the fate of our future. Stay until the end to see what could change how you see the world forever. Number 4. Technology and the New Global Order. Let's take a closer look at the mysterious and often unsettling prophecies of Nostradamus. Words that, centuries after they were written, still stir curiosity and concern in our modern world. One particular verse that continues to draw intense debate reads, "In the year of the great seventh number completed, appearing at the time of the games of slaughter, not far from the age of the great millennium, when the dead rise from their..." This cryptic language, while open to wide interpretation, is seen by many as a reference to our current era, an age marked by the rapid evolution of technology, moral ambiguity, and global unrest. The games of slaughter could easily be linked to modern warfare, violent entertainment, or even the political spectacles that dominate global headlines. And when we consider the line about the dead rising, it's hard not to think of breakthroughs in artificial intelligence, digital resurrection of voices from the past, or even the way history continues to repeat itself in hauntingly similar patterns. Some scholars suggest this quatrain warns us of a leader emerging during this very time, a figure who thrives in chaos and whose presence signals the climax of a much older cycle of power and conflict. Another prophecy adds more layers to this unsettling vision. The great empire shall fall by a man of iron. He shall be born of the east, but take the crown of the west. His words shall be as honey, his actions as fire, and the people shall call him Savior. This portrait of the so-called end times leader leaves many guessing who or what it might represent. Some believe this refers to a political or military figure already within the spotlight, while others suggest a quieter, more manipulative force, perhaps an economic power or tech titan who operates behind the curtain of public awareness. The mention of honeyed words and fiery actions reflects a deeply familiar pattern. Charismatic figures who win trust through speeches and charm, yet enact harsh, sweeping changes once power is in their hands. The crown of the West being taken by one born in the East could symbolize a global shift in influence, perhaps economic or technological, where boundaries dissolve and the idea of national identity becomes blurred. And while this may sound like distant prophecy, look around today. Global power is more decentralized than ever, and leaders rise not only from government, but from corporate boardrooms, digital platforms, and even algorithms. This leads to an even more unsettling possibility. What if this leader is not a person at all, but a system? The world we now live in runs on data, shaped by predictive algorithms, curated content, and invisible systems that influence how we think, vote, feel, and spend. Could Nostradamus have glimpsed the rise of a digital empire, one that doesn't wear a uniform, but still commands allegiance? As artificial intelligence grows more sophisticated and surveillance becomes woven into the fabric of daily life, we must ask, are we empowering a form of control so subtle and all-encompassing that we barely recognize it? Nostradamus's vision may point not only to a ruler, but to the birth of an age where domination comes not by sword or decree, but by suggestion, convenience, and dependence on technology. The very tools we cherish may slowly be reshaping our freedoms, and unless we consciously guard against manipulation, we may find ourselves living under a new kind of rule, one we helped create. When Nostradamus speaks of a war that would shatter the world as we know it, with fire raining from the skies and cities crumbling, it's tempting to think of nuclear catastrophe. But perhaps the war he speaks of is already underway, and its battlefield is less visible. Economic instability, social fragmentation, mass disinformation, cyber attacks, and biological threats are now part of our reality. What if this war is not fought with weapons alone, but through control of perception and identity? In such a scenario, the leader of the end times isn't a single figure, but the personification of this shift. Someone, or something, that harnesses all these tools to reshape society at its core. And as systems evolve beyond national borders and become more self-operating, we may be entering a time where power no longer looks like a throne. It looks like a dashboard, a line of code, or a data network. So what does this mean for us, here and now, trying to live our lives, raise our children, and seek peace in a world filled with uncertainty? The message is not to panic, but to pay attention, to stay grounded, informed, and thoughtful in a time where clarity is precious and distraction is everywhere. Don't hand over your discernment to convenience. Don't trade truth for entertainment. Nostradamus may not have intended for us to fear, but to awaken, to look at the signs of the times not as doom, but as invitations to greater awareness. Whether or not the end times leader is among us, the choices we make today will shape the future far more than any prophecy. If we want a better world, let us become the kind of people who build it, not through fear, but through wisdom, compassion, and courage. What's your view? Are we already living in the age he predicted, or do we still have time to change our course? From prophecy to power, turning fear into transformation. As we journey deeper into the warnings of Nostradamus and the unsettling possibility of a rising end-times leader, it's easy to feel a weight settle on the heart, a sense of helplessness or even dread. But prophecy, when viewed through a wiser lens, doesn't exist to paralyze us. It exists to awaken us. Behind the symbols, the chaos, and the cryptic warnings lies a hidden message, one that calls not for fear, but for transformation. Because no matter how dark the vision, we are never just spectators to fate. We are participants in the unfolding of history. So in this next section, let's shift our focus. Instead of asking only what might come, let us ask how we can respond. Let's explore how fear, rather than being our downfall, can become our catalyst for change. And most importantly, let's uncover what it truly means to transform not just the world around us. Number 1. Prophecy as a mirror, not a sentence. Many people misunderstand prophecy, especially when looking at the cryptic quatrains of Nostradamus, treating his words as irreversible verdicts on humanity's fate, as if they were chiseled into stone by forces beyond our control. But perhaps the deeper wisdom lies in viewing prophecy not as a fixed sentence, but as a reflective mirror held up to the soul of society. Rather than dictating destiny, prophecy can serve as a spiritual compass, one that reveals our tendencies, warns of our extremes, and challenges us to break the cycles we keep repeating. When Nostradamus spoke of chaos, manipulation, or the rise of a charismatic but dangerous leader, he wasn't necessarily predicting a name or date. He was offering a portrait of humanity at a crossroads, a haunting reminder of what unfolds when we surrender our power to fear, apathy, or blind trust in authority. The true purpose of prophecy may not be to foretell the future, but to awaken consciousness in the present. It asks us to reflect on our collective values, our unchecked impulses, and how easily civilizations can drift into darkness when guided by ego instead of wisdom. In today's world of algorithm-driven outrage, political tribalism, and rapid technological change, these ancient warnings feel more urgent than ever. They challenge us to take personal responsibility, not by panicking, but by paying attention. What behaviors are we rewarding? What voices are we silencing? What truths are we ignoring in favor of comfort? When we understand prophecy as potential, not punishment, we reclaim our agency. We are not spectators to fate, but participants in shaping it. And in this light, fear becomes a tool, not something to run from, but something to transform. Fear sharpens awareness. It exposes what truly matters. It reveals where we've become passive and pushes us to act with intention. So if these old verses stir something in us, it's not because they control our path. It's because they challenge us to rise above it. Just like a storm doesn't create weakness but exposes it, prophecy doesn't trap us, it teaches us. And that's where real power lies, not in knowing the future, but in choosing how we show up for it. In modern life, where many feel powerless in the face of global instability, this insight becomes a kind of medicine. You don't need to decode every cryptic line of an old manuscript to find guidance. You only need to look at your daily choices. Are they grounded in fear or in clarity? Are they adding to the noise or creating space for truth? The deeper we reflect, the more we realize that transformation doesn't begin in the halls of power, it begins in the mirror. And maybe that's what prophecy has been asking us to do all along, to stop waiting for signs in the sky and start recognizing the signs already within us. Number 2. Fear is a tool, not a master. Fear is one of the oldest tools of control, and Nostradamus understood its power deeply. His prophecies didn't just describe events, They revealed the emotional forces driving human history. Fear shapes the choices we make. It builds walls between people, and it blurs our ability to think clearly. But here's the truth most people overlook. Fear doesn't have to dominate us. In its rawest form, fear is simply information, a signal that something needs our attention. What if, instead of running from fear or letting it dictate our lives, we learn to listen to it with clarity and courage? You see, when we start using fear as a tool rather than letting it use us, everything changes. It becomes fuel for action, not paralysis. It wakes us up, makes us more alert, and pushes us to ask deeper questions about who we are and what we truly stand for. Nostradamus may have warned us about a leader who manipulates through deception and fear, but the real question is this: how do you respond when fear shows up in your life? Do you shut down and follow the crowd, or do you pause, reflect, and act from a place of truth? Because the answer to that question shapes your future far more than any external threat. Whether or not that foretold figure ever rises to power, the greater transformation lies in how we face the fear within us, whether we allow it to shrink our spirit or awaken our inner strength. So let this be your reminder. Fear is not your master, unless you give it permission. And in today's world, where fear is often sold to you in headlines, algorithms, and divisive narratives, your ability to transform that fear into self-awareness, resilience, and wise action is your greatest power. Start noticing when fear arises, and instead of reacting blindly, ask yourself, what is this fear trying to teach me? What values do I need to protect? What truth is asking to be heard? Because when you respond to fear with presence instead of panic, you not only free yourself, you lead by example for those around you. That's how transformation begins, not through prophecy alone, but through the daily practice of choosing awareness over anxiety and courage over control. Number 3. Awakening through awareness. In today's world, where every screen shouts for your attention and headlines are designed to provoke more than inform, cultivating true awareness has become one of the most powerful forms of self-defense and self-liberation. You might think awareness is just about paying attention, but it's so much deeper than that. It's about waking up, truly waking up, to the way narratives are shaped around us, to the subtle manipulation in media, to the carefully designed distractions that keep us numb, reactive, and divided. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by information yet uncertain of what's true, know this: you're not alone. And that's exactly where transformation begins. Nostradamus's prophecies may seem like relics from another time, but what they reveal, deception, collapse, the rise of controlling figures, is playing out in our generation in eerily familiar ways. Ask yourself, how often do you pause and question the stories you're told? How often do you truly examine the emotions being stirred inside you when you scroll, listen, or consume? You see, awareness starts in small moments. Noticing your knee-jerk reactions, feeling the discomfort instead of escaping it, questioning the source instead of blindly accepting it. It's not about paranoia, it's about presence. And in a world that benefits from your distraction, your awareness is an act of quiet rebellion. It's not just brave, it's necessary. When we choose to stay awake, to seek truth instead of comfort, we become impossible to control. The kind of leadership warned about in ancient prophecies, one built on fear, division, and blind loyalty, can only survive when people stay passive and unaware. But you, just by listening, are already stepping into a different path. You're choosing clarity over confusion, truth over convenience, and that matters more than you might realize. So let me ask you, what kind of world are you helping to shape simply by choosing to stay conscious? What beliefs are you challenging today that you once took for granted? What emotions are you sitting with instead of numbing? Because awakening doesn't require a massive revolution. It begins right here, with a willingness to look inward, to question boldly, and to refuse to sleepwalk through a reality that desperately needs your awareness. If we each take that step, we don't just break free, we help others do the same. So stay with this process. Stay uncomfortable if you must, because discomfort often signals that something real is stirring beneath the surface. And in that stirring, transformation begins. You're not here by accident. Something inside you is ready to rise above fear and step into transformation. Comment "rising power" below to show you're claiming your strength. Keep watching to discover how to turn old fears into a new, empowering future. Number 4. The power of collective will. Let's take a moment to remember something we often forget. You are not alone in your hopes, your fears, or your dreams of a better world. Throughout history, while much attention is given to wars, rulers, and moments of collapse, there's another story that runs quietly alongside it. One of awakening, resilience, and the extraordinary power of people coming together. When we speak of prophecy or warnings about societal breakdown, we often think of it with dread. But what if we viewed these moments not as endings, but as invitations to rise? Prophecy isn't just a prediction, it's also a mirror, reflecting the direction we're heading and asking us if we wish to continue or change course. In that sense, a prophecy becomes less about fate and more about potential. So the real question becomes, what are we choosing right now with our attention, our actions, and our relationships? Change does not begin with 1 million people marching in the streets, although that can be powerful. It begins with one person deciding to live with clarity instead of confusion, with compassion instead of blame, with courage instead of fear. That person could be you. When you choose kindness over division, when you speak up against what feels wrong even if your voice shakes, when you help someone feel seen or safe in a chaotic world, you are contributing to a greater collective force. This is the collective will, and it is one of the most underestimated sources of power we have. It is not about control or dominance, it is about alignment. Human hearts and minds choosing peace, choosing dignity, and refusing to be pulled into the currents of despair or hate. It may seem like your single choice doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but the truth is, consciousness spreads. Just like fear can ripple through a crowd, so can love, so can courage. Have you ever noticed how one person remaining calm in a crisis can influence everyone around them, or how a single voice standing up for truth can inspire others to do the same? You might not see the effects immediately, but every small action adds to the collective momentum. And the more people who wake up and live from a place of awareness, the stronger that field becomes. As the saying goes, we do not fight darkness with more darkness, we fight it by becoming the light that exposes it. This doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine. It means shining light on what's hidden, facing what's uncomfortable, and refusing to let fear dictate the future. Fear may visit, but it doesn't get to lead. So ask yourself, in this moment, am I contributing to fear or to clarity? Am I reinforcing division, or am I helping to build a bridge? These questions are powerful not because they demand perfection, but because they awaken presence. And presence is the soil in which transformation grows. When enough people begin to choose consciousness over chaos, courage over comfort, and compassion over convenience, the energy of the world starts to shift. The prophecies that once seemed like doom become the spark for deeper change. You are a part of that spark, whether you realize it or not. The key is to remember that your choices matter and that you are never too small to make a difference. In the stillness of your heart and the actions of your daily life, you are shaping something greater than yourself. What kind of future are you helping to create? So here's the lesson to carry with you. Collective transformation doesn't start with someone else, it starts with you. Each choice you make to live consciously, to act with kindness, to stand up for what is right, is a thread in a larger tapestry of change. You don't need to be perfect or loud to matter. You simply need to be present and willing. In a world that often pulls us toward fear, your decision to be a light is revolutionary. And when we come together, as lights shining in different corners of the world, the darkness doesn't stand a chance. Number 5. Your role in the prophetic age. In times like these, when the world feels uncertain, when headlines stir anxiety, and when change seems to be racing ahead of us, it's easy to wonder, what does it all mean? You might hear talk of prophecy, of great changes to come, or of powerful figures rising or falling. But before you get caught up in fear or fascination, I want to ask you something more important. What is your role in this moment? Because the truth is, the prophetic age isn't just about dramatic predictions or apocalyptic warnings, it's about awakening. And that awakening doesn't belong to someone else, it belongs to you. This isn't a movie we're watching unfold. You are not here just to observe history happen. You are here to shape it, to respond, to contribute, and to transform not only your own life, but the world around you. So what does it mean to choose transformation over fear? It means recognizing that every small act of courage, every mindful decision, and every moment of compassion is a building block of a new future. It means refusing to hand over your power to despair, cynicism, or blind hope. We often ask, where is the leader who will save us? But maybe the more honest question is, am I willing to lead in my own life? Am I willing to stop waiting for someone else to act with wisdom and begin acting with wisdom myself? We each carry within us the seeds of insight, the capacity to reflect deeply, and the ability to live ethically in whatever role we find ourselves, whether that's as a parent, a student, an artist, or simply a thoughtful human being. And when we cultivate that inner clarity, we stop needing to be rescued. We stop fearing the unknown, because we know we are already preparing, not by hoarding or hiding, but by being present, mindful, and grounded in values that endure. This is what the prophetic call is really about. It's a call to responsibility, not the heavy, joyless kind, but the sacred kind, the kind that says, yes, I have a part to play, the kind that stirs your heart and invites you to rise, not because you're forced to, but because something deep within you wants to. So ask yourself, if this is the beginning of a new chapter in human history, how do I want to show up in it? What kind of person do I want to be in the face of uncertainty? Do I want to be someone who reacts with fear or someone who responds with wisdom? What if the leader we're waiting for isn't someone else at all, but the part of you that dares to tell the truth, even when it's uncomfortable? The part that chooses kindness, even when anger feels easier. The part that stays present, even when the future feels overwhelming. That part of you, that still, wise, courageous self, is always available. It doesn't arrive on a cloud or in a prophecy. It emerges in quiet moments of honesty, in the choices you make when no one's watching, in the way you love, care, and show up for others. So don't just ask, is the world about to change? Ask instead, am I becoming the kind of person who can meet that change with strength, clarity, and heart? Because real transformation doesn't start out there, it begins right here with you. How will you answer the call? And so, as we step back from the cryptic words of Nostradamus and the chilling visions they evoke, one truth becomes clear. We are not powerless in the face of prophecy. Whether or not the end times leader is already among us, the real transformation begins not with fear, but with awareness, courage, and conscious choice. Thank you for joining us on the journey of wisdom. If this video sparks something in you, whether reflection, questions, or a deeper sense of purpose, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear this message, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming explorations into truth, transformation, and timeless wisdom. Until next time, stay awake, stay grounded, and remember, the future is not just something we wait for, it's something we help create.